Hello, what is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and as you know, I am going through the Star Wars prequels. God help me, because I am now talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This film came out in 2002. It was, of course, written and directed by George Lucas. And the plot is, it takes place some 10 years after the events of The Phantom Menace. Young Annie is now grown up, Anakin Skywalker. He's being trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they get tasked with protecting Padme once again. But while that's going on, Obi-Wan finds out about the secret plan going on from forces in the dark side, and that they're creating this clone army, and that they're planning on going against the Jedis, wiping them out, taking over. So of course these Jedis try to stop them. Now what I think of Attack of the Clones is, it's fairly obvious that I do not like this movie. In fact, rewatching it now, I hate this movie. Man, oh man, I tried to be optimistic. I try to level with these prequels and say maybe they're not that bad. Let me try to look for the good things in them. How can somebody who created such great things like those first 3 original Star Wars movies produce such shit? This movie especially, for me, is shit. Let me first talk about the one decent thing in the movie, the good thing in the movie, I will say, is Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is played by Ewan McGregor. I think Ewan McGregor, because the fact that it's been 10 years, because, or at least in the story, it's been that long. So his character, Obi-Wan, I buy being a wiser Jedi, somebody in the position of training now. And Ewan McGregor has a little bit more personality here. There's moments of him having some humor, light humor, and it's desperately needed, and so you latch on to him, especially whenever he goes off and does his own thing. We're like, no, can we stick with him? Can we not deal with this other bullshit going on? Obi-Wan is definitely a character that you want to follow and see what he has going on, so I like that. But an issue with not really him, but the writing, is that he's training Anakin Skywalker, right? Who they believe to be the chosen one, and they're investing a lot into, but they don't get along. In fact, they hate each other. There's so many scenes of Anakin whining and complaining about how he's being trained and how Obi-Wan doesn't trust him or is jealous of him, and Obi-Wan saying, you never listen to me, and they bicker back and forth to the point where you're like, did they ever get along? Ever? All of this history and all of this talk about how Anakin was one of the best Jedis and how he was such a good guy, you never see that here, ever. I should probably talk about Anakin Skywalker, who is played by Hayden Christensen. And Hayden Christensen, look, do I want to say that this guy is a terrible actor? I mean, who knows? I've heard maybe 1 or 2 movies where he's good in. I'll take their word for it. I don't know what happened here. Maybe he just wasn't ready for this task. This is a daunting task. You're playing a beloved character, a beloved villain before he was that. There's a lot of history here. And to be fair, the writing is terrible. The dialogue of some of the stuff he has to say is terrible. Clearly, the directing of him was terrible, because if he's supposed to be likable and he's whining and bitching about the way Obi-Wan's training him, if he's whining and complaining and being a stalker to Padme and creepily hitting on her and saying all these things about how beautiful she is, how she still looks the same ever since he was a kid, and he dreams about her every day, and this is stuff where you should look at Padme and say, run for the fucking hills. Don't look back at this guy. And she says no at first. She says we shouldn't be doing this at first, but clearly she's weird as well. Natalie Portman as Padme. Here's a girl who met this kid when he was 10. And she, even when she reintroduces herself to him here, she's like, oh, I remember you. You're still that young kid I remember. But then, like a day after, she falls in love with him. And there's this whole love romance thing going on, and it's bullshit. It's laughable. It's so forced. All of these scenes of them rolling around in the grass and laughing and carrying on, it's so fake. It's so awful. There's no chemistry between these two actors at all. It's awful. And Natalie Portman, she's one of these actors where I think she's a great actress from other things. Like, thank God she went off to do V for Vendetta or Black Swan or all these movies where she showed her acting chops. She showed that she deserves to be nominated for Oscars. Because if this was the only movie that you had seen her in, you would think she sucks. You would think she's god-awful, terrible, and should never work in Hollywood again. Anakin Skywalker, we're supposed to care about him. We're supposed to feel bad for him. Like when he finds out that his mother was sold back in his home planet Tatooine, and she is a slave in this other village, and she was being tortured, and he finds her like dead. We need to feel so bad for this guy that we understand why he crosses over and why he kills every living being there. We should be with him with this. We should really sympathize, but we don't, because he's been whining the whole time. He's been acting immature and like a child this whole time. And then when he comes back and tells Padme that he's killed a bunch of men, women, and children, she's just like, oh, well, that sucks. I'm here for you. What? Nobody's a real person. Nobody's acting like a normal person. It's insane for you to see at the very end, the last shot of this film is them getting married. What? Lucas really thinks that these two characters have progressed to the point where they're that madly in love that they get married? Bullshit. I call bullshit. But another big complaint is the CGI. The CGI is terrible. First of all, there's too much CGI. This movie's so reliant on CGI. There's so many scenes like the chase at the beginning where they're in that completely CGI city and it looks like a video game. It looks terrible, god-awful. And then the Colosseum scene and just the creatures that they have to face there, and there's a side plot of these clones who are being created to be stormtroopers, and just the CGI that goes into this is terrible. Now, you should be able to give them credit, right? It's 2002. It's very early on when movies, big blockbuster movies, were using this much CGI. So I could give them a pass. But at the same time, the first Spider-Man movie came out this year. And for me, the CGI there still works. It still holds up. It's still awesome. There's really no excuse. If the original trilogy can use those great effects and use that many practical effects and not have scenes like Mace Windu and Yoda talking on a complete green screen set, nothing around them looks real. It looks fake as all hell. Speaking of Yoda, Yoda is completely CGI. Why? Yoda was just a puppet in the last movie. Why did we think it was a good idea to make him a complete CGI? Because they think some of the movement would be better? Okay, if you say so. I will say that I'm slightly intrigued and slightly interested by the Jango Fett character. He was kind of cool. He obviously had the Boba Fett look, and the action scene with him and Obi-Wan was cool. You see a young Boba Fett as a kid, and even the moment later on when Jango gets killed and the kid picks up his severed head. Like, you get it. They're trying to build up Boba Fett as a character to maybe match the love that he got from fans. But to be honest, we know his fate. We know where he ends up, and it's not really all that special. So it's all kind of a waste of time when you think about it. But speaking of waste of time, let's talk about the villain, Christopher Lee, who was a great actor, very well respected. He's a guy that you think of when you want to think of these iconic villain roles, especially from the past. This is great casting in theory. But when you have him playing a character called Count Dooku, or Dooku, or whatever the hell he's called, really, that's the best name that Lucas could come up with. Count Dookie, or Doo-Doo, and yeah, that sounds childish and immature. Well, Count Dooku is just as childish and immature. I'm supposed to take this guy seriously. I'm supposed to take this plot seriously. It's supposed to be a big deal that he has crossed over to the dark side and betrayed the Jedis, but you don't feel anything. You really don't. The end battle with him and Yoda, some people might say it's laughable because Yoda is completely CGI, bouncing around, flipping around and stuff, but it's one of the only decent action scenes in here, and I'm like, let Yoda get his badass moment. Why not? If I'm reaching and pulling for any positivity in this movie, it's that end fight, and it's a couple things here and there, but nothing to warrant how slow this film gets, especially in the middle with Anakin and Padme, how boring it is, how forced the script and this dialogue and the terrible writing that goes into this movie. This film is terrible. It is. I can't believe I wasted my time. Hopefully that is the last time that I ever have to watch Attack of the Clones, because I hate it that much. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you do like Attack of the Clones. That's okay. Let's talk about it. But thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.